What's the first thing that comes to mind when I show you this game? It's this, right? Now, 2012's Kinect Star Wars was supposed to be one of the big licensed exclusives released for Microsoft's motion sensing peripheral in their effort to steal some of that sweet casual customer base away from Nintendo. Unfortunately though, both the peripheral and Kinect Star Wars would go on to become the butt of many jokes. Now, while the reasons behind Kinect's failure are multiple and deserve their own video, I think that Kinect Star Wars has been somewhat unfairly maligned, mainly due to the ridiculous dancing game. In fact, I've met loads of people who think Kinect Star Wars is just a dance game. They don't realize that it has a full campaign mode which ends at the Battle of Coruscant, the best pod racing since Episode 1 Racer, and this insane Rancor destruction mode where you can actually eat people. And so in this video I'm going to take a look back at this, the last Star Wars game before Disney, to show you why Kinect Star Wars deserves a second chance. Okay, we begin with the main menu, which is set against the backdrop of the Jedi Temple with R2 and 3PO. Now 3PO mentions Luke, which means this is set long after Revenge of the Sith, and look, you can actually see all the damage left by Anakin and the 501st. Hold on, this is the Council Chamber.
What are we going to do?
Anyway, the droids present you with a selection of game modes, and we're going to start with Jedi Destiny, this game's campaign, which lets you choose your own protagonist. Yes, let's go with Biff. Just love that dead-eyed stare. Now, the campaign is set during the prequels, but they never really commit to a specific date until the very end. You and a group of other Padawan arrive on Kashyyyk.
It's Master Yoda!
And Mr. Windu is here too!
And Master Kenobi dining in from home. Now, these cinematics are actually pretty good for an Xbox 360 game, except they kind of messed up the size of poor Mace's forehead. Of course, this being a Kinect game, the whole gimmick is using your body as a controller, which means you'll be spending a lot of time swinging an imaginary lightsaber. Now, the Wii games were a waggle fest, but at least they had a tactile Wiimote to grip onto. This game just has you swinging your fist around in midair. In addition to that, the game will also have you bobbing, weaving, jumping, and kicking to get around levels. Alright, time to use the Force. Something's not working. Maybe I can summon it using this funky dance. Well, come on, my arms are up. Do something. I've got it. I've got it. Whoops. Oh yeah, Master Yoda, I'm definitely feeling it now.
Clumsy you are, young Padawan.
It's not long before the droids and Trandoshans attack Kashyyyk. Quickly, to the speeder bikes. Master Yoda, do you mind giving me some personal space? You're making me feel a bit uncomfortable. Get out of the way! Well, I did warn them. We then get a few levels of you jumping, kicking, and swinging your imaginary lightsaber around in an attempt to push back the invasion. Look, these NPCs are engaged in a high-intensity battle. It's not long before the Padawan crew, featuring Chewbacca, take to space. Hold on, is that the Outrider from Shadows of the Empire? Nice touch. Now, this being a Kinect game, most of the space sections are kind of on rails, with you acting as the gunner. You know, as you hold an imaginary gun. The campaign mode also comes with its own villains. These Darth Maul meets the Blue Man Group twins who are trying to hunt you down. The crew then crash on a Separatist ship, and at this point the campaign kind of gets into a groove. Most of your time is going to be spent chopping down droids, with an occasional break in the action courtesy of a jumping puzzle or a vehicle mission, and each of the sections ends with a lightsaber battle against a boss. Eventually the crew escape the ship and crash land on Felucia, where they fight the Trandoshans and droids alongside this incredibly handsome resistance fighter. The campaign ends with 2 space battles. The first one is over Felucia, and you can actually pilot the Delta this time, which is a bit cumbersome as there's no physical controls, especially when doing these trench runs through the Separatist ships. Now, the second Starfighter mission is actually set during the Battle of Coruscant, and I've got to say, it looks great. Yes, you are kind of flying on rails, but still, the developers really went out of their way to make the visuals look as close to the movie as possible. And that's it for the campaign. Your Padawan is knighted, and everyone lives happily ever after. Well, for about 6 hours before Palpatine executes Order 66, but let's not think about that. Unfortunately, Jedi Destiny's biggest limitation are the controls, and it's clear the developers realized this and try to overcompensate with nice visuals, callbacks, and Easter eggs from the wider Star Wars lore. Still, it feels less like a full console level campaign and more like a long arcade game. You do get a bunch of different gestures that try to add more depth to the combat, but chances are you'll quickly give up and just start waggling both your arms around looking like this fella. Okay, let's move on to the next game mode, the pod racing. Now, 99's Episode 1 Racer kind of set the gold standard for pod racing games, so honestly I wasn't expecting much when I first tried try this mode. There is a campaign mode which takes place a decade after the Bunta Eve, and once again you can choose your own character. Yes, I think I'll play as the Space Satan. Watto and Sebulba are back, voiced by their original actors.
You! Put down the broom!
This time, Watto acts as the Mickey to your Rocky as he coaches you through the pod racing circuit.
Now never do that again!
Oh geez, Watto, why did you have me practice in the middle of Mos Eisley? Now, the pod itself is controlled by holding out your arms and then tilting them back and forward the way Anakin did in the movie. Now, the controls themselves aren't even that bad once you get used to them. The only problem is, it's f***ing exhausting. Each circuit lasts about 3 to 5 minutes, and by the end you feel like your arms weigh a ton. The developers have also added a few other elements to the gameplay, like having to shoo these womp rats away, using a repair droid, and shoving other racers out of the way. The announcer returns, as does the legend himself, Ben Quadranaros. The campaign has you going from planet to planet racing against Sebulba. There are 6 planets, and each is filled with details from the wider universe. For example, Mos Espa has Jabba's palace, Krayt Dragon Bones, and a big old Sarlacc pit. Coruscant has a bunch of locations from the movies, like the political district, the entertainment district, and for some reason a Geonosis droid factory. Sure, it's only 6 planets, but each is filled with loads of different details and has a unique track. In addition to the campaign, you also have the arcade mode, where you can unlock and play as all your favorite racers from episode 1. And if you win, the Kinect camera maps your movements onto the racer on the podium. So you can have Odi Mandel do the Suck It, or Mars Guo do the Matrix, or Ben Quadranaros whip out the dance moves. Let's be honest, that there is worth the price of admission alone. To me, this pod racing mode would rival N64's Racer if it only had a few more planets and the option of controller support. Holding your arms out for that long is excruciating and makes it impossible to play for more than one track before taking a break. Alright, next up we have Ranor Rampage. See, if this was Disney Star Wars, a mode called Ranor Rampage would have you playing as a brave hero trying to stop the Rancor from destroying everything around it. But because this is the good old George Lucas Star Wars, you play as the Rancor as it rampages around 3 levels with highly destructible environments. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if George was the one who requested this mode personally. And when they say rampage, they really mean it. In addition to destroying buildings, you're also encouraged to take out countless numbers of innocent civilians with a variety of different moves. Look, you can even eat them. The goal of this mode is to cause as much destruction as possible. You get 4 different planets you can play on, each with their own subspecies of Rancor. I also love this opening cutscene on Felucia, which has a little girl send her Rancor away like it's an unwanted puppy.
Daddy says you're too big now.
Overall, this is definitely one of the most unexpected modes in any Star Wars game ever, and a prime example of what made classic LucasArts great. Okay, moving on, we have the Duel of the Fates mode. There's not much to cover here, it's just the dueling mode from Jedi Destiny, but this time with a few more characters that you can unlock. And finally, we have the infamous Galactic Dance-Off. Yes, it is cringe. Having Han Solo dance to Jason Derulo with Star Wars lyrics is ridiculous, but anyone who's played this mode will realize the developers were clearly in on the joke. Just look at the Jabba's palace stage as an example. Boba is bobbing in the background, Jabba himself is doing the jiggle, Princess Leia is just vibing along before casually clipping off the chain and going in to join the dance. It's a tongue-in-cheek joke dance minigame. Did it fall flat? Yeah, kind of. But this was never a serious attempt by George Lucas to cash out a beloved franchise by licensing it out as a Dance Dance Revolution ripoff. It's just a glorified gag. And here's the thing, George's Star Wars never took itself too seriously, especially during the end of his tenure. Think Family Guy, Robot Chicken, or the unreleased Detours show. And so there we have it, Kinect Star Wars. Not long after its release, Lucasfilm would be sold to Disney, who would shut down LucasArts, making this their last game. And while it is sad that LucasArts didn't end its 3-decade run with a big AAA game like 1313 or The Force Unleashed 3, it could have done worse than Kinect Star Wars. The game has a strong art style, and dancing aside, it respects the franchise's lore and universe. Plus, for us prequel fans, it would be the last game firmly rooted in that time frame. But most importantly, it still had the creativity, silliness, and whimsy that we came to know from the old LucasArts, which is why I think Kinect Star Wars deserves a second chance. But that's just my take. Please let me know your thoughts and experiences with this game. Which is your favorite mode? And how long could you last on the pod races before your shoulders failed? As always, thanks for watching. Please consider supporting me on Patreon, and a big thanks to all my existing patrons. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.